Notice is hereby given of the reorganization meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, June 10th, 2014, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, June 6, 2014, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Rich Matesic. Lucy Biegler. Here. Ann Carey.
Here.
Mark Friedman. Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Roseanne Kerstead.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Here.
Gretchen Olich. Mitch Slater.
Here.
Ann, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for the announcements. I'm going to go to the podium. Oh, this is an interesting perspective. Tonight, we honor 5 outstanding secondary teachers who all have very much in common. In every letter of nomination, these teachers were commended for how much they care about the students and strive to reach every single one of them. Phrases like the few that I'll read in a minute are common threads in the nominations on their behalf. Generous attitude, incredible work ethic, outstanding teaching, making the subject matter fun, above and beyond efforts, teaches respect, creates a sense of unity, makes learning fun, patient and understands that students aren't always correct, truly caring about each and every student. It is clear that all of you excel in your position and are deserving of the awards that you are receiving this spring. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to present each of you with a resolution. And we usually start with the middle school teachers or the intermediate school teachers, but we're going to start with the high school teachers because one of the honorees, Bob Brewster, has a baseball dinner to attend. So he's been there, he took a break to come here to get his recognition, which we're so happy that he could, and he has to then go out again. So Bob, if you could come up, that would be great. So I'm going to first read the resolution, and then Mr. Renwick, the principal of the high school, will come up and say a few words. Mr. Brewster, Coach Brewster, you have received the Westfield High School Distinguished Teacher of the Year Award for 2013-2014. Whereas the Distinguished Teacher of the Year Award has been established to annually recognize a teacher who, through both excellence in teaching and a demonstrated commitment to intellectual pursuits beyond the classroom, serves as a model and inspiration to the high school community to strive towards excellence. And whereas this award, presented to Robert Brewster, a dedicated biology teacher at Westfield High School since 1974, recognizes his knowledge and commitment to science and to the well-being and success of his students and his advancement of humanitarian efforts to help those in need. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Education publicly congratulates Robert Brewster for receiving the 2014 Distinguished Teacher of the Year Award, a significant honor and a notable accomplishment. And that this resolution be presented to Robert Brewster on June 10th, 2014, and that a copy of this formal resolution becomes a part of the permanent records of the Westfield, New Jersey Board of Education. So thank you so much for all that you've done for our students and our athletes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very honored to be here tonight to represent the Westfield High School community in celebration of 3 great teachers. And I appreciate that Mr. Brewster is standing here with me, and I know that Mr. Hart is in the audience, and Ms. Calamano could not make it as she is attending her son's recital, I believe it is, at Edison. So she could not be here tonight. I'd like to just speak in general, in the interest of time, not about each teacher individually, because we could spend a lot of time talking about 40 years of teaching just with Mr. Brewster alone. But I liked the opening comments that were read by Ms. Kerstead that quoted the students. And Dr. Dolan and I and my administration and a number of teachers have been at a variety of different student awards ceremonies. And it's most rewarding when you hear the words of the students and what they feel about either their content knowledge or about their school, but in particular, it's particularly powerful when they talk about their teachers. And I think we can all relate to having a great teacher that has impacted our lives. And all the teachers that are honored tonight most certainly have done that. They have changed lives. And I think we know that the role of the teacher is ever changing. And in this very challenging time to be in education, the one thing that is always rock steady, certainly in the Westfield schools, is that relationship between student and teacher, and something that we can be very proud of as a district that we foster. Today, teachers are mentors. They are coaches. They're often social workers and friends. It is very, very appropriate and important that we take time to honor those teachers. We are excited and proud to honor Mr. Brewster, Mr. Hart, and Ms. Calamano. They've earned this distinction. But I will tell you that they are simply wonderful representatives of our school faculty. A faculty that is dedicated to our students, putting students first through all the challenges of this school year. That is one thing that I talked about at the last faculty meeting. Everything we went through and the teachers rose to the occasion, there was never a doubt that what came first was the well-being of the students. And again, I think that's something that we can all be very, very proud of. We're proud of Mr. Brewster. I know that his team is waiting for him. I'm going to join him. We're proud of Mr. Hart. He's done a phenomenal job and has kids that respect him dearly. And Ms. Calamano, who puts her heart and soul into this, into her profession in so many different ways. Again, I'm honored here tonight to represent Westfield High School, and congratulations to all the teachers who have been honored by their students and your colleagues. Thank you very much.
No words.
Now I'd like to call James Hart, the second teacher recognized in the high school. Congratulations. This is a resolution by the Board of Education of Westfield, New Jersey, to James Hart, the Robert and Linda Foos Memorial Award winner for 2013 and 2014. Whereas the Robert and Linda Foos Memorial Award has been established to annually recognize a member of the Westfield High School staff for excellence in education, and whereas this award, whose namesakes were a former principal of Westfield High School and a former teacher, has been conferred upon James Hart. And whereas James Hart, a dedicated industrial arts teacher at Westfield High School since 1978, is commended for sharing his skills with students of Westfield, as well as underscoring the importance of respect and safety. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Education publicly congratulates James Hart for receiving the 2014 Robert and Linda Foos Memorial Award for Excellence in Education, a significant honor and a notable accomplishment, and that this resolution be presented to James Hart on June 10th, 2014, and that a copy of this formal resolution becomes a part of the permanent records of the Westfield, New Jersey Board of Education. Thank you. And as Peter mentioned, there was a third teacher who was honored, and that was Rose Calamano, and she received the PTSO's Outstanding Teacher Award. So we congratulate her, and we thank all the teachers, and particularly these three teachers who have been recognized today, for their dedication and their work with our kids. We really appreciate it. And now, I'd like to honor the intermediate school teachers, and we'll start with the teacher from Roosevelt School, and that's Colleen Rapparelli. So first, I'll read the resolution to Colleen, and then I'll call Stu Carey, the principal of Roosevelt, to say a few words, and I think invite some students up. So, this is a resolution by the Board of Education of Westfield, New Jersey, to Colleen Rapparelli, Intermediate School Teacher of the Year, 2013-2014. Whereas the Optimist Club of Westfield, a supporter of schools and children in the community for many years, has established an annual award for outstanding teaching in the intermediate schools. And whereas this award is a fitting tribute to the importance of teaching in the intermediate grades and the nobility of the teaching profession. And whereas Colleen Rapparelli, who is in her 10th year as a mathematics teacher at Roosevelt Intermediate School, has been awarded the 17th Annual Intermediate School Outstanding Teacher Award for outstanding teaching, interest in children, and continued pursuit of professional growth. And whereas the nominations received on behalf of Colleen Rapparelli expressed appreciation for her creativity, patience, and ability to engage and highly motivate her students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Board of Education publicly expresses appreciation to the Optimist Club of Westfield for establishing this award, and that this Board of Education sincerely congratulates Colleen Rapparelli, representing Roosevelt Intermediate School, for receiving the 2014 Outstanding Teacher Award and significant honor and a notable accomplishment. And that this resolution be presented to Colleen Rapparelli on June 10th, 2014, and that a copy of this formal resolution becomes a part of the permanent records of the Westfield, New Jersey Board of Education. Congratulations. Mr. Carey.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Board of Education and the Westfield Optimist Club for taking the time to recognize the wonderful gift of teachers in this district. For 10 years, I've sat at that table looking at all of the nominations and recommendations by teachers and parents and students for the Teacher of the Year. And every year I see the same thing. People talk about teachers caring, their commitment, their passion for the work that they do. And every year it's a difficult decision, as Dr. Dolan knows, to select a teacher. And every year I walk away and I said, we can't do any better than what we've done. Colleen epitomizes what Roosevelt teachers are about, or what all our middle school teachers are about. They have a passion for what they do. They have commitment to working with middle school students, because that's not an easy job. But Colleen does it with grace. What's strange, and not strange, but what's so gratifying about this award, Colleen was on a maternity leave, and she didn't come back until February. So it meant that January, I'm sorry, her students did not even know her for the first half of the year. And once she got into the classroom and began to utilize her knowledge of students, her skill set, and the proper strategies to bring students up to par, they recognize the same thing that all of us at Roosevelt recognize, that this is a very bright woman, a very intelligent woman who has a care and a commitment to the students at Roosevelt. And so after 10 years, she has been recognized for this. So I just, on behalf of the staff, I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate her on the wonderful job she has done and a well-deserved honor as Teacher of the Year. Colleen?
Thank you. Well, good evening. I am beyond flattered and humbled by this recognition. Words cannot express the joy that I feel from being named Teacher of the Year among the multitude of outstanding teachers at Roosevelt Intermediate School. Many of you may not be aware that I am the mother of 4, but most days I feel like the mother of 104, or even more. My students are my kids, and I become very attached to them and invested in making a difference in their lives. As a mother, I make sure that my children know that they are loved and that I'm always there for them no matter what. I make it a rule to laugh each day and enjoy life to its fullest. I have high expectations for my kids, and I hold them accountable for those expectations. But at the same time, I always support them and reinforce the fact that I am proud of them in all they do. As a teacher, I am no different. My students are loved, we laugh constantly, I challenge them daily, and I support them in all their efforts. I can remember sitting in interviews fresh out of college like it was yesterday, and every administrator asking the question, what are the characteristics of an effective teacher? I remember going through the list and giving the textbook answer that included good classroom management, organization, a solid foundation of content knowledge, and so on and so on. And I think all of that is still true. However, I would probably answer that question a little differently now. In my opinion, an effective teacher is someone who teaches with their heart, someone who sees students as real people and cares as much about their interests as you would about them completing their homework. It is someone who finds ways to connect with students and goes above and beyond to ensure understanding of the concepts being taught. An effective teacher creates an environment that is caring, safe, and supportive and allows students to be successful. If you show a child that they are important and that you believe they can accomplish anything they set their mind to, they will astonish you, just as my students do every day. I am truly blessed to have a career that I love. In closing, I would like to thank my parents and my husband for always supporting me in all I do, and my kids for being my inspiration to be the best teacher I can be. I would like to thank the unbelievable staff that I work with, who are the epitomes of effective teachers, and the amazing administration that always supports us. And lastly, I would like to thank every student that has ever entered my classroom because they have taught me more life lessons than I could ever teach them. Thank you.
And is the PTSO coming? Did you say? No. Yeah? Yeah? And the PTSO from Roosevelt also, I think, is here and would like to present Colleen with something.
Mrs. Rapparelli has taught 2 of my children and will hopefully teach the other 2 in due course. However, you don't get to know the teachers at the middle school in the same way that you do the elementary school. So I'm not terribly well equipped to speak about Mrs. Rapparelli, except that she's been very effective with my 2 children. However, there are people who really do get to know their teacher, and that's the pupils. So I went and spoke to a few of those to see what they had to say about her. These are the quotes. Mrs. Rapparelli makes sure we're all on the same page and understand what we are learning. She makes sure we are prepared and have all the tools we need, review sheets, answer sheets, and very clear notes. Mrs. Rapparelli tries so hard to make our lessons fun, and they are. I really, really didn't like math before I was in Mrs. Rapparelli's class, and now it's my favourite subject. Mrs. Rapparelli is just a really lovely person. She always has the time to help you when you don't understand something. I am so grateful to Mrs. Rapparelli for making me love math. She is my favourite teacher ever, and all my friends love her too. I used to get so frustrated by my math homework, I used to cry while I was doing it. But Mrs. Rapparelli helped me so much, and now I don't cry. There are over 70 teachers at Roosevelt School. Mrs. Rapparelli, what greater accolade is there for a teacher than to be chosen as the Teacher of the Year by her pupils? Many congratulations from the PTSO.
And now I would like to call Carrie Webster from Edison School. Congratulations. And I'd like to read the resolution to Carrie Webster. Resolution by the Board of Education of Westfield, New Jersey to Carrie Webster, Intermediate School Teacher of the Year, 2013-2014. Whereas the Optimist Club of Westfield, a supporter of schools and children in the community for many years, has established an annual award for outstanding teaching in the intermediate schools. And whereas this award is a fitting tribute to the importance of teaching in the intermediate grades and the nobility of the teaching profession, and whereas Carrie Webster, guidance counselor at Edison Intermediate School, who celebrates her 20th year serving the students of Westfield, has been awarded the 17th Annual Intermediate School Outstanding Teacher Award for outstanding teaching, interest in children, and continued pursuit of professional growth. And whereas the nominations received on behalf of Carrie Webster expressed appreciation for her compassion, dedication, extraordinary care, and support for students, now therefore be it resolved that this Board of Education publicly expresses appreciation to the Optimist Club of Westfield for establishing this award, and that this Board of Education sincerely congratulates Carrie Webster, representing Edison Intermediate School, for receiving the 2014 Outstanding Teacher Award, a significant honor and a notable accomplishment. And that this resolution be presented to Carrie Webster on June 10th, 2014, and that a copy of this formal resolution becomes a part of the permanent records of the Westfield, New Jersey Board of Education. Congratulations. And now I'd like to invite Matt Bolton, principal of Edison's Intermediate School.
Good evening. I'd like to first thank the Board of Education for allowing us to speak tonight. I'd like to thank Dr. Dolan. I'd also like to thank the Optimist Club of Westfield for having this award. Last year, I stood up here and I was speaking about Debbie Vizos, our Teacher of the Year from 2013. And I called her our barometer at Edison Intermediate School because she was able to measure the pressure all the time. And I got a lot of flack for that because apparently Edison Intermediate School teachers don't appreciate a quality metaphor. I did. It was, so if Debbie's a barometer, what am I? Who's the ruler? And on and on. So to those faculty members, I say, Carrie Webster is our compass. She always points us in the right direction. In all seriousness, though, Carrie Webster is an amazing educator, a highly collaborative colleague, and a trusted counselor. At Edison Intermediate School, we try to live by this motto that most, if not all, great schools, particularly middle schools, live by, and it's know your students well and allow yourself to be known well by your students. Carrie Webster knows each one of her 261 students extremely well. She prides herself on knowing them well. She knows them when they are anxious on their first day of school, and she knows them a week later when they navigate the hallways with precision. She knows them when they are excited about a great grade or a new relationship, and she knows them when they have to persevere through failure. She knows them when they are ecstatic and when they are at their most vulnerable. Carrie Webster truly spends every one of her days making a positive difference in the lives of the students that she comes in contact with. And that is what this award is about, and she is incredibly deserving of it. And to highlight her many attributes, I've asked two students, Masi Del Piso and Alana Hammond, to come up and say a few words.
So, over the past 2 years, Miss Webster has really become an important figure in my life. She's really helped me overcome my social anxiety. I mean, last year, when I first entered Edison, I was going for another school. I knew no one there, except for one or two people. I was really afraid. So Miss Webster helped me expand and make friends in that environment, and I really wasn't comfortable there at first. Whenever she was stressed, she was there to help me. Whenever I got into an argument with one of my friends, she helped to resolve it. Whenever I felt misunderstood, she was there to assist me. Because she always was and always will be there for me, I can wake up every morning knowing that I belong at Edison. I really do believe that she deserves this award.
My name is Alana Hammond. I am a 7th grader at Edison Intermediate School. I met Mrs. Webster in December of this year. When I came to Edison, it wasn't under the best of circumstances. My family was going through a lot at the time. Mrs. Webster could not have come into my life at a better time. Mrs. Webster immediately became my shoulder to lean on and to cry on. She never interrupts in the middle of a story. Well, maybe sometimes, but only for good reasons. Without meeting Mrs. Webster at the time I did, my life would be completely different than it is right now. Mrs. Webster's door was always open to me. She made me feel comfortable and welcome. I knew that whatever I need to share something, she would be there. I never felt like Mrs. Webster would judge me or would ever share anything I told her. I trust her completely. Mrs. Webster, you need to know that you have changed my life for the better. You have not only become my counselor, but you have become my friend. You deserve this award, and I'm so happy that I am able to share in the celebration of you. Thank you for being all you can be and helping me to do the same.
Wow, thank you. Excuse me. Good evening, Dr. Dolan, Board of Education, colleagues, students, and the Westfield community. First, I want to thank you for recognizing and honoring the hard work of our district's teachers year after year. I thank you also for choosing to recognize a school counselor as Teacher of the Year. It is, for me and my colleagues in the counseling department, affirmation that the role of counselors in our schools is valued and important. I started as a 6th grade language arts teacher in 1994, and after 9 years moved into the counseling position at Edison. After working at Edison for 20 years, I can assure you that middle school is a critical time of vast change and transition for our students. socially, emotionally, and physically. There is no doubt that middle school can be enormously challenging, but it also happens to be exactly why I love it. Each day is different than the day before it. There's never a dull moment in middle school. On a daily basis, I wear many different hats: counselor, teacher, mother, nurse, referee, etc. I serve as advocate and liaison between students, teachers, parents, and community. I get to play some role or another in just about every aspect of middle school life. And at the end of the day, there are very few things more rewarding in this life than helping a struggling student find success. I am sure you would agree that kids today are simply not the same kids as 20 years ago when I started my career in Westfield. To give support to these kids and guide them through such tumultuous and critical time in their lives is exactly what we as educators strive to do each and every day. We work hard to build resilience in our kids and to continually improve the climate in our school so that every child feels safe and protected when they walk into our building, a charge we all take very seriously. It feels wonderful to be recognized for that, especially because we as educators may not always realize the impact that we've had on our students at the time. But it's the students who come back years later to thank me for the guidance I provided. It's looking across from this podium at a former student who now serves on the Board of Education. Hi, Brendan. It's the many former students who have chosen education as their profession. It's receiving awards such as this that allows me to take pause and reflect. We do have a positive impact on our students, and that's what makes it so gratifying. I would like to thank the administrators, past and present, who have hired, supported, and encouraged me over the years. Barbara Ball, who saw something in me 20 years ago when she hired me as a language arts teacher. Stuart Carey, who with a gentle push and great confidence in me, encouraged me to apply for the counselor position. My current administrators, Matthew Bolton and David Dulks, whose leadership styles are one of collaboration, unending support, and a willingness to try innovative ideas. I am so grateful for my fellow colleagues at Edison, who are so amazing at their jobs that they help me to do mine. I've worked with every single teacher in the building, and it's the camaraderie I share with all of them that allows us to work as a real team in the best interest of all of our kids. To the Board of Education, thank you for giving me the opportunity to work in a district that clearly values the whole child. You recognize that in this setting that maintains high expectations, high stress and high anxiety are increasingly common among our students. I appreciate that you recognize this and make important decisions that maintain counseling staff and programs. And thank you most of all to the students and families of Westfield for the pleasure of working with you and allowing me to absolutely love what I do every day. To know that I have played a part in helping Westfield students navigate through their middle school journey is all the thanks I really need, but I am deeply humbled by this recognition anyway. Thank you so much for this award.
So before we end and go to a reception, I was just wondering if there was anybody else who would like to say something about any of the teachers who were recognized today. It's hard to follow that, I understand. Okay, well then, congratulations again to all the teachers who were recognized, that were recognized tonight, and we will take a short break so that everyone can congratulate the teachers and mingle, and there are some refreshments outside for you to enjoy. Thank you so much. I think that door needs to be open, right? No, doesn't? Oh, okay. All right, well, it's always nice to recognize the accomplishments of our teachers who are recognized for the hard work that they do. And now we will get down to our, oh, actually, we still have some announcements, so we can continue to celebrate the accomplishments of people in the district. So, Brendan, do you have any?
I have two.
Okay.
6 Westfield High School 11th graders have achieved perfect scores on the March SAT and 4 in May on the ACT standardized test widely used for college admission criteria. Those students are Hannah Goldring, SAT Writing, Francis Ling, SAT Reading and Writing, Jacqueline Napolitano, ACT English, Mathematics and Reading, and Olivia Windorf, SAT Reading, and Jack Rose, ACT Mathematics, Andrew Kudnestov, SAT Writing, Brian Chow, ACT Mathematics, Jameson Marr, ACT English, and Andrew Zale, SAT Reading. And another announcement from the high school. Congratulations to Mark Gillespie, Westfield High School senior, who achieved the gold medal on the National Latin exam run by the University of Mary Washington for the past 4 consecutive years.
Wow.
The National Latin Exam Committee wrote to Principal Renwick stating, quote, "This is a noteworthy achievement indeed, and a credit to your school, and to you who support and recognize the value of study of Latin, as well to your Latin teacher whose dedication has made this honor possible. We congratulate you, and we share in the great pride you must take in this outstanding student." And we on the board also congratulate Mark Gillespie and his teacher, James Rowan.
Okay. Congratulations to the cast and crew of Westfield High School's spring musical production of Anyone Can Whistle, which won 2 awards at the 2014 Paper Mill Playhouse Rising Star Awards ceremony. This year's recipients were seniors Alexa Derman for student achievement in hair and makeup design, and Samantha Gruskin for student achievement in stage management. In addition to these 2 awards, Mr. John B., or Mr. John Brzezowski, right?
That's right.
Vocal teacher at Westfield High School was recognized with an honorable mention for musical direction. In addition, congratulations to Westfield High School senior Frazier Wiest, who for the 2nd year in a row won a $1,000 prize in the Harmonium High School Choral Competition. If you recall, Frazier was at one of our Board of Ed meetings this spring, since he also was named a Presidential Scholar finalist in 2 categories, the only high school student in the country receiving 2 distinctions. He also won the Distinguished Student Award at Westfield High School's recent awards night, and he will represent Westfield High School well at Harvard. So congratulations, Frazier. And in addition, at Westfield High School's annual awards night, more than 130 awards were presented to graduating seniors. Please check the district website for the names of the award recipients. We will celebrate all of our graduating seniors on Thursday, June 19th, at the commencement ceremony, which will be held at Keeler Stadium at 6 p.m. And that's a change, that it'll be held at Keeler. So, is it still going to be held in the Armory if it rains, or it's just always?
Yes, if it rains, it will be in the Armory, and that'll be Kaler Stadium, yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to 8th graders Julia Mazzola and Eve Crandall from Roosevelt Intermediate School, who were presented the Outstanding Solo Performance Awards at the 47th Annual Bucks County Playhouse Student Theater Festival on May 15th. They were among the 27 8th grade drama students from Roosevelt Intermediate School who performed in 22 short comic scenes. More than 150 students from 6 schools from New Jersey and Pennsylvania participated in the performances and were able to attend workshops that included working with the Broadway performer choreographer Lee Wilkins. Kimberly Johnny is a drama public speaker teacher at Roosevelt who worked with the students in preparation for the annual competition. Congratulations again.
From the high school, Mary Keller, social studies teacher at Westfield High School since 1998, has been elected to the Board of Directors for the New Jersey Council for Social Studies. She'll serve as one of 3 regional directors for Central New Jersey, representing Westfield Public Schools, as well as the interests of Union, Hunterdon, Mercer, Middlesex, Monmouth, Somerset, and Warren for a 2-year term. As part of her duties, she'll be working with like-minded social study educators across the state of New Jersey to provide meaningful professional development. Westfield Supervisor of Social Studies, Andrea Brennan, congratulated Mary and said, "This is a great opportunity to put your skills and experience to work and help social studies teachers in New Jersey." And we on the board congratulate Ms. Keller and know that she will represent Westfield very well.
And from the elementary schools, McKinley Elementary School recently held its 3rd annual Mini-Thon, the event at which over 220 students danced to fight pediatric cancer, raised over $8,400 to benefit the Karen Research Fund. This is a great cause and a great effort by our young students and their school community. Congratulations to them. And district-wide announcement, 21 Westfield Public School staff members were honored for 535 years of combined service by the Board of Education and colleagues at the 27th Annual Gala for School Employees. The event was held last Thursday, June 5th at Pantages Renaissance in Scotch Plains. This annual event brings staff members together to honor retirees and employees with 25 years of service. Please check the district website for the complete list of names of our honorees. We appreciate the opportunity each year to thank our retirees and our long-term employees who have served the Westfield school community. It's always a lovely event. I enjoyed it again this year. Congratulations to everyone retired and at 25 years of service.
Thank you. I have a few announcements as well. Just a reminder for K through 8 students, the last day of school will be Friday, June 20th. The last 2 days of school, June 19th and June 20th, will be 4-hour sessions, and that again is for students K through 8. For grades 9 through 12, June 19th will be the last day of school. The last 2 days of school for the high school students, June 18th and June 19th, will be 4-hour sessions. In athletics, we'd like to congratulate the boys lacrosse team for winning the Group 4 state championship on May 29th. We will honor the team at our next board meeting on June 17th. Which brings me to my final announcement, which is about the next Board of Education meeting, which will be held Tuesday, June 17th at 7:30 p.m. In addition to the boys lacrosse team, we are inviting the fine arts students who have been recognized statewide this year. And now, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Dolan for the superintendent's report. Oh, I do. Before I turn it over to Dr. Dolan, I'd like to recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Dolan for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. And tonight's superintendent's report has to do with New Jersey's system for monitoring public schools. That happens to be called QSAC, New Jersey QSAC. QSAC stands for Quality Single Accountability Continuum, hence why we all call it QSAC. So QSAC is the system of monitoring, and it is something that a district, members of the staff of the district really work quite hard to prepare for because there are a lot of requirements. And we have spent several months this year preparing for it, and then we actually had visits by the state in November and April of this year, both to the Elm Street offices and also to a number of our schools. NJQSAC has 5 different performance areas: instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel. And underneath those 5 broad areas, there are a number of different items that we have to show proof that we are in compliance for. And once we compile all that information, we're instructed to have a review committee review all of what's been compiled. On the screen now, you have a list of the people who were represented on that committee and who worked in the fall to make sure that they reviewed what we had and helped us prepare our self-assessment. That is what is then assessed by the county office, which is a branch of the state government. So based on the state's review of our paperwork and visits to our schools and classrooms, the scores for each of the areas are listed on the screen. For instruction and programs, we received a score of 93%, fiscal management 98, governance 100, operations 100, and personnel 100. If any district who receives scores of over 80, if you receive scores of over 80 for all 5 areas, you are considered a high-performing district. So we just received these final scores last week, and we're told to present them at a public board meeting. And the acting commissioner of education, Commissioner Hespy, will be recommending formally to the State Board of Education at their next meeting that we be certified as providing a thorough and efficient system of education in Westfield, and also designated as a high-performing district. We're certainly very pleased with that. All of the staff members work hard every day in our schools because it's what we have to do and what we want to do for our students. And we're very pleased that with all of the hard work of all of our staff, we have been designated as a high-performing district. So I'd like to thank all of the staff members for their efforts in that regard.
Any questions, comments? Ginny?
Just one comment that I hope that the State Board of Education and the legislature see fit to change the monitoring timeframes to 7 years in the future for high-performing districts.
Yes,
That would benefit us.
There's definitely talk of that. Right now, every district in the state is monitored every 3 years, and there have already been bills introduced in the legislature to change that to 7 years, especially for those districts who have reached high-performing designation.
I would echo that statement because I think that Dr. Dolan downplayed the amount of work that it takes for a district to provide the documentation required for the CUSAC monitoring. It is hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks of administrators, what?
Months and months.
Of administrators, principals, and people in the district's time. That does serve a purpose, but every 3 years, it's very onerous, especially when, you want to be working with kids and doing what you can for kids.
And
So,
when the validation occurs that you are a high-performing district, you think about all the time that you could be
Right.
spending doing things that would directly benefit those outcomes of student achievement and program development and program assessment that
Right.
would keep moving all of that achievement forward. A necessary evil, but it would be nice if we didn't have to do it so often.
right.
And kept our standards up, of course.
Yes.
So we are high-performing, so that's great. So is there any, through the process of collecting all the data and through the discussions with the monitors, is there anything that stood out for you that, we could always do better, or we could always want to do better? So is there anything that jumped out at you, or?
I would say what always comes out when you go through a process like this is, one, in a district that has 10 schools and serves all levels from early childhood through the high school, we didn't find any problems, but it is a constant job of ours to make sure that we are communicating the same message across all those different areas, and that there is a consistency in all aspects of the district throughout all the schools. So that's one thing that always comes up. How, for all of these areas, how do we communicate that effectively so that over 800 employees understand what the different messages are and the policies and the state requirements, et cetera? It's an ongoing task to do that. And then my second thought would be, we are all living in a time with a lot of things changing, and that is very hard to balance and to keep everybody aware of all the most recent changes. So that's a constant challenge that we have at this point as well.
Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to this is our reorganization meeting, so if you'll notice, there are a lot of items that we will be, that I will be asking the board to approve that are just reestablishing contracts that we have with architects or vendors or lawyers, consortiums that we belong to, and also reapproving curricula and policy so that we can move along with the business of acting as a board for the next school year. So, are there any questions or comments about that?
Just a quick question, Dana, you probably know the answer. Once we approve these, is there the ability as a board to have a discussion on one of them to possibly make a change?
Are you talking about
In the middle?
professional
Yeah, like
services? Yes.
attorneys, for example.
Yes.
Just not picking on them for any reason, but just,
You can
Right.
make a change at any time.
You can,
It doesn't
okay.
have to happen at
Okay,
reorganization. Yep.
okay, that's all.
You could also add attorneys for special reasons at any time or anything like that as well.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask the board to approve items 1 through,
It's actually 32. 32 isn't marked on your,
no, I think it's 33 that's not marked, right?
I think it's 32.
Oh, 33.
No.
You're right, 32. I don't know how to
32 is a long
count.
one.
32,
32 is
items
long.
30,
4 pages.
items 1 through 32, I'd like to ask the board to approve. May I have a second?
Second.
Any more comment or discussion?
Just to further Mitch's point, going forward, we should be looking at some of the professional services, not one way or the other, just, they're always worth reevaluating.
Which I think this board has been committed to,
Right.
and each year slowly we are looking at the different professionals who provide us services, whether it's our health insurance brokers or our architects, the auditors. I think we've been trying to do that.
Absolutely.
Throughout the years. So thanks.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Then I'd like to ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on May 13th, 2014, and May 20th, 2014, and the private minutes of May 20th, 2014. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lucy. All in favor?
I'm going to abstain.
I have to.
Aye. Yes.
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
4-0 with 2 abstentions? Okay.
Since Mark isn't here, I'm going to ask Ms. Carey to do personnel.
I would like to ask the board to consider personnel items 1 through 35.
Second.
Thank you, Mitch. And I see here that the first item is a retirement of a wonderful teacher.
Yes. Yes, and there is one slight mistake on the agenda. Under number 1, Isabella Christine Hedden, it says she is a math teacher. She is in fact a social studies teacher. And even though her first name is Isabella, she really is known a bit more as Chris, so I think I will go with that name. So tonight I am announcing with regret the retirement of Christine Hedden, who has worked in the district for 22 years. Chris began as a language arts teacher at Edison School and then became a member of the social studies department. Chris fosters a warm and welcoming learning environment for her 6th grade students' experience, and there are multiple activities that reflect sound teaching practices going on in her classroom. She has also been an active member of the Edison School community, serving on the building leadership team, as a frequent chaperone at school events, and as the advisor to the Animal Helpers Club. Chris is looking forward to spending more time at the beach and with her family in her retirement, and we wish her well.
Are there questions on any other items? All good? Okay, may we have a roll call?
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is facilities, and Rich isn't here. Dana, is there any report?
Not really. We are, as you know, we awarded contracts for all the rest of our roofing projects, which are going to take place this summer. So we are meeting with the contract. We've had several meetings already. Have more meetings in the next couple of weeks, and they'll be starting as soon as school is done.
Okay, and the summer programs are all situated with the buildings that are accessible
It
and,
wasn't easy, but yes.
okay, great. Because we have a lot of work going on in
Yes,
our
we do.
buildings, and we also have a lot of programs that happen in our buildings. So great, thank you. Long-range planning, Ginny?
No report.
Policies, seeing Gretchen not here, I think Brendan is
Yes.
going to lead us.
I said the board approve policy item number 1.
I'll second it.
We have 6 policies that we are revising, and just like to note out 3 of them individually. 2320, independent study, 2411, guidance counseling, and 5500, actually 5530 as well. The amount of time that Maggie McFadden and Maureen Masary's put into revising these policies, meeting with at least 3 committees between policy, curriculum, and I'm assuming they have their own in-house as well.
Right, absolutely.
Many hours went into revising these to reflect current practice and improve current practice. I'd like to thank them for the time they put into that.
Comments or questions on
Did we get a second on that?
I second it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So did Ginny, I think.
There's a tie.
Take your pick.
Ginny's the default second.
Any questions or comments on the policies? I had noted some edits to Gretchen, so I'm assuming those will be incorporated. They were not substantive, they were more edits, so I'm assuming I don't need to go through them now? Okay, and then I would just like to mention that the Code of Conduct was reviewed also by a committee of community members, staff members, administrators, teachers, Board of Ed, parents.
Students.
And students, as required by law. And I must say, I sat on that committee, and it is always really interesting to get the points of view of all the different members, and in particular, the students, because they are the ones whose lives are impacted the most by this particular policy, and it's really great to have them involved.
Yes, I would agree. That committee is always a great representation of the community, and caring people brought up a lot of different topics, and we did update it.
I have one more comment about 5300, automated external defibrillators. I know we had discussed in in policies, the locations that we have them, and we have at least one in every building, the field house, and on every athletic field where our students are playing or practicing, in addition to any of the number of other facilities that we use, the Y, I believe the golf course. We talked at length about the training that goes into that, and
Exactly.
and the availability during off hours.
That's right as well, yes. And so, and when other groups utilize our fields and the school is not open, or the fields are not open, they're just being used by outside groups, part of what they sign is they realize that that is their responsibility. We know it's not an open school nearby.
Right.
That's part of what they sign. But we also do make sure, as Brendan mentioned, that all of our fields that we play on regularly, we do have AEDs. For areas where we might be playing somewhere else, our coaches have ones that can be brought to the event. And at every school, and our coaches, at every school there's a team of people who are trained in the use of AED. And then additionally, coaches are trained, and other people who are going to be off-site with students.
Any other comments, questions? Can we have a vote?
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the board to approve policy motion number 2.
Second.
We're abolishing 7 policies. 147, board member travel expenses. 147.1, board member travel expenses. 1440, travel expenses for administrators. 2411.1, guidance program. 2460.8, special education pupil records. 3440, travel expenses for teaching staff, and 4440, travel expenses for support staff. We are abolishing, where is it? Most of these policies are abolished because we enacted policy 8330 and 6471. And that the points of each of these policies that we're abolishing aren't going away. They've been consolidated into other policies that we now have. So to clean it up, consolidate it down.
So 6471, I think, has to do with the travel expenses for the board members and for the administration and the teaching support and support staff. And the guidance program for the elementary schools, we rolled into the 2411, the guidance counseling. There were 2 separate ones, one for elementary and one for intermediate and high school, and we rolled that all into
Thank you
one.
for the clarification. Any questions? We have a roll call?
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Curriculum instruction and programs. I'd like to ask the board to approve for first reading the following curricula: World Language, Mandarin Chinese 2. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lucy. So this is really, I'm sorry, Mandarin 3. I read that wrong. Really excited that our Mandarin program is developing. We started 2 years ago with 10th graders, or 10th, 11th, and 12th graders who were interested in Mandarin, so we had Mandarin 1. This year we offered Mandarin 1 and Mandarin 2, and next year we will be offering Mandarin 1, 2, and 3. And I'd just like to read a little blurb about this new curriculum, and then we'll go for discussion, I guess. Mandarin Chinese 3 is the third course in the sequence of Chinese courses directed to continued development of the skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Students continue to grow in their knowledge of the Chinese language and culture by describing daily routines and interacting with Chinese speakers. Students are able to participate in conversations about daily life of teenagers inside and outside of the school day. In addition, students are able to discuss issues related to health and the environment. The understanding and appreciation of the Chinese people and their culture form an integral part of the learning experience, thereby fostering the world languages standards of communication, culture, connections, comparison, and communities. The Mandarin 3 course provides students the opportunity to continue to expand a vocabulary and grammar base, and students are given many opportunities to practice new vocabulary and expressions. The course seeks to continue the development of language skills that can be applied to both formal and informal situations, and students are encouraged to continue to use and understand more simplified Chinese characters. So this is really a transition for the students in Chinese, in Mandarin, because they're going from using pinyin, which is the phonetic spelling and alphabetic spelling of the way the Chinese characters sound, and they're moving more into reading the characters. So really learning about more of how to read and also write the characters in a very simple form, because the writing of Chinese is very specifically done with the form and order of the different strokes to build the characters. But they're beginning more to do the writing and then also to be able to read the characters and not being so dependent on the pinyin, which is just so exciting, I think. So the history of Chinese writing system continues to be presented while they're adhering to the essential, the essential questions and concepts within the units. So I'm really excited about it, if you haven't noticed, because I think
Can you
this
read
is
it for us in Mandarin?
I cannot read it for you in Mandarin. I can count a little bit, but I'm not sure you want me to. So anyway, are there any comments or questions about that curricula?
That's a great step.
Yep. So can we have a vote?
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Roseanne Kerstead.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Oh, I would just like to reiterate, it is the intention to grow to Mandarin 4, in which time ninth graders will be offered, have the opportunity to take Mandarin 1. So then students entering the high school will be able to take a full sequence of a language. So, I'd like to ask the board to approve the following district field trips as attached. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ginny. Any comments or questions? Okay. Oh, wait, comment,
No, I
question?
was just going to make a comment that these are two of our foreign language trips, one to Spain and one to Italy next year for our high school students. So I'm very pleased that we're continuing with that opportunity.
I agree. It really provides the students with opportunities to immerse themselves in the culture and really utilize the language skills that they've developed in the classroom in a way that, you can't get in the classroom. So it's great hands-on experience.
The only thing I would add is I would hope we can add more kids. It was very limited this year.
Oh.
And sometimes that's just the nature of how many kids in Spain and, just.
The host families,
So,
because
yeah,
they do live with host families.
Yeah, I know
right?
there are a lot of kids that, weren't able to do it. And I think in the
Mhm.
future, I don't know if it means finding another city in Spain or something, but
Mhm.
I know it's something many kids look forward to.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Couldn't timed it better.
Nope.
Hope the concert was good.
It was fantastic.
Good.
Oh, great.
We're on to finance now. And on item 1 of finance, actually, I would like to ask the board to approve the item number 1, the agreement between the Westfield Education Association and the Westfield Board of Education for the period of 7/01/14 through 6/30/17. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lucy. What?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah,
now
one
before
second,
we
one
vote?
I'd just like to, as I just moved, item number 1 on the finance agenda tonight is the agreement for the Westfield Education Association. The Westfield Education Association represents more than 500 teachers, nurses, librarians, guidance counselors, social workers, and school psychologists. It is the district's largest bargaining unit, and we will have board discussion at the table about the specifics of the contract, but before we do that, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the process, because we do not take this lightly. This is clearly very important to us. The teachers are the heart of our district, as well as, 80% of our budget, perhaps. But, so the board discussed the terms of this contract for a long time. We had many fulsome discussions, heated at times, you might say, because we are a board representing many different parts of this community, and we have different experiences and different perspectives on how we want the district to move ahead. So we had many, many discussions about our objectives and our approach for this negotiations. The agreement was hammered out over several months, beginning in January 2013 at a board workshop. We proposed objectives and strategies that were mapped out for the negotiations team to begin. Additional planning meetings were held in July and August, followed by another full board workshop where the board addressed topics of compensation strategy, local and national compensation models, the costs of increment, starting salary levels and salary guides, the priority of contract terms, the identification of a competitive set of districts against whom we wanted to benchmark our district's achievements, and the all-important question of what's important to the board and what's important to our teachers. All of these discussions were attended by and/or summarized to all board members. Collective bargaining meetings for the successor contract between the board and the WEA began in September, following the successful negotiation of a one-year agreement with the WEA for the 2013-2014 school year. 7 negotiating sessions were held between September 2013 and May 2014. The negotiation team was busy, to say the least. When the contract terms were finalized and agreed in May. During this time, status information and cost analyses were delivered to the board and discussed in private meetings and workshop settings. A summary document of the facts and figures for the proposed agreement was sent to the board, which provided a helpful recap of everything that the board had already discussed, because like I said, we had been discussing this for a long time, with lots of differing point of views being heard. Thankfully, we have a settlement on the table today to talk about at the board table in public and then vote upon. So I would like to now turn it over to Ginny, who is the chair of our negotiation team, to give us a little more specifics about the agreement.
Thanks, Roseanne. The term of this contract is for 3 years. The effective dates are July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2017. Under the new contract, the salary settlement is 2% annually. Stipends for co-curricular activities and athletic coaches will increase 1% annually. As you know, the main cost driver in the district's operating budget is labor, employee salaries, and benefits. This year, the district's health plan premiums skyrocketed to double digits. The district counteracted this by changing health insurance brokers and converting our prescription plan to a self-pay model. While these actions provided a modest reduction in our projected health costs, a significant cost reduction continues to be realized from the results of the State of New Jersey's Public Law 2011, Chapter 78, which stipulates that all public employees share the cost of their medical insurance by paying a tiered contribution based on salary. Next year, WEA employees will cover about 10% of the total of their health costs. In the final year of the contract, or year 3, this amount will increase to more than 20% of the projected contract cost of health insurance. This legislation has taken the job of negotiating contributions to health premiums out of the hands of local school boards. Qualified employees who waive health insurance coverage will no longer be paid for this choice, resulting in significant additional savings to this district. Additional cost savings will be realized by limiting employees on maternity, paternity leave, or child rearing and adoption leave to only COBRA coverage of health benefits after exhausting state and federal law and statute-required district-paid benefits. Additional savings will be realized by restructuring elementary AM supervision, which will be managed without compensation. All members of the association will have the opportunity to take a personal day with leave without explanation. This is critically valuable to our association members who have often felt uncomfortable and conflicted about taking off a needed day when circumstances fell into a category that was not recognized as a legitimate day off within their contract. The board recognizes and supports this opportunity for all members of the WEA. The final critical focus of this agreement, which is very likely the most important term for all teachers and administrators, is the addition of one professional development day in each year of the contract. This provision will positively benefit the district and all association members. It is essential because of increased state-mandated training requirements, the administration of the new teacher evaluation system, the district's new website, and the need for increased attention to shared planning. I want to note that these terms that I just outlined match the priorities that the board set for the terms of the contract. The board charged the negotiating team with 2 critical objectives. Number 1, a salary increase as low as possible, recognizing our tight budget, a cap on increases, and the various important initiatives that we need to undertake in coming years. In no case would the board have been willing to exceed 2% annually. And number 2, an annual effective rate of as close to 2% as possible, taking into consideration the compensating value of adding an additional professional development day. The board believed that the value of an additional professional development day was of great significance, both to teachers and students, and of course to our administrators. The terms of this negotiated agreement meets these board objectives. It's hard to place a value on our teachers, nurses, guidance counselors, librarians, social workers, school psychologists, and educational specialists. Ask any kid what they remember most about their school days, and they'll name a teacher or a coach or a counselor who singled them out and made them feel important, or helped them through a crisis, or just cared enough to help them make it through the day. Our teachers are the lifeblood of our schools. They bring enthusiasm into their classrooms day in and day out. They model and live a love of learning, and they love our kids. They are the heartbeat of the Westfield Public Schools. Just tonight, we saw this as we recognized and awarded our outstanding teachers in our secondary schools. In this time of capped tax levies and unfunded state mandates, the unrestricted rising cost of health care and special education tuition and resources, when critical resources like technology and roofs and boilers compete for dollars in a constrained budget and a contracted economy, it's hard to compensate for the value of our teachers. The board is always balancing taxpayer spending against our many valued initiatives. Considering all that, both the WEA and the Board of Education accomplished a significant task with this agreement. And I would just note that the majority of the Board Negotiating Committee endorses this agreement. Thank you, Roseanne.
Lucy?
Sure. I just want to point out that I am a teacher in another district and a union member. Therefore, I was not on the negotiations committee or part of any of the discussions until after the memorandum of agreement was signed and the salary guide was also approved. However, I feel that the teacher's contract with a 2% increment is completely justified, especially since state settlements have been averaging higher than 2%. So I guess I could say now that I'm more than happy to vote in favor of this contract.
I just want to clarify, it's a 2% salary increase.
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Not increment, because the salary guides work in an interesting way.
Be sure to.
Okay. Mitch?
Hello. Okay. First of all, I thank you for bearing with me. I might be a few moments here, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak. So I believe that there are multiple reasons that our recent Board of Ed elections have been unopposed, and that as of now, nobody has stepped up to run for the positions this fall. One major reason, in my opinion, is nights like this, and votes such as the one in front of us tonight on a new contract with our dedicated, outstanding Westfield teachers. Tonight's vote is not easy, but as I was told by a very wise former board member, it's your role to always speak up and vote your conscience. As some of you know, one of the reasons I was asked to run and elected 4 years ago is that I'm not afraid to give my honest opinion on the tough choices that have to be made in a district of our size. Just a brief history lesson. In 2010, taxpayers were dealing with an economy with negative growth, massive job cuts, and pay cuts, not raises, for most of our citizens. Many of our friends, neighbors were struggling to make ends meet for the first time in their working lives. Then the unkindest cut of all came to New Jersey education when the reality of underfunding hit Trenton and forced a massive slash in state aid that forced Westfield and other New Jersey districts to cut teachers, programs, and implement a fee for all student activities. Our biggest budget challenges, in my opinion, came that year when the Westfield teachers' contract was approved, curiously the night before the governor's speech, giving teachers nearly 4% raises that at that point could not be afforded. In my mind, that one decision has challenged us by delaying much needed state-of-the-art technology infrastructure and classroom and building and facility repairs. I don't have the exact figures, but I'm fairly confident that over the last 10 years, teacher salaries in Westfield have outpaced inflation dramatically, and the taxpayers had to bear the brunt of that burden. So this is the tough part again. I'm not saying the raises aren't deserved. Teachers in our country are vastly undervalued and underpaid compared to other professions, including my own. But the fact of the matter is that our budget that pays for Westfield teacher salaries comes from Westfield taxpayers who continue to see excessively high taxes and live in a county that provides no help at all with funding or legislating any of our local needs. So here we are back at the table in 2014. This time I was fortunate enough to be on the negotiating team and experience firsthand how the process works. I'll say that I walked away with great respect for everyone on both sides of the table and believe that all parties involved kept in mind the main reason that we sat there, which are the 6,600 students that walk the halls of our schools every day. Still, tough decisions have to be made. This fall, the halls of the high school, for example, will be overflowing with nearly 2,000 students. We still have a wish list of items that we hope to pay for in the next 5 years. Later this week, our kids will take finals in rooms that aren't air-conditioned. We have auditoriums at the middle school level that desperately need a makeover. We hope to create STEM labs, replace classroom floors, and resurface gym floors. The list of critical needs goes on and on. All of these hopefully will get done, but wouldn't it be nice if we could do more of them now? The way it works in public education is simple math. As Roseanne said, roughly 80% of the public money we have to allocate goes toward district salaries and benefits. We have very little wiggle room beyond that. It's my view that we could have done better with this contract and perhaps, as I had hoped, negotiated at least 1 year without an increase to lessen either the tax burden and/or evenly distribute those funds to other critical needs throughout the district. In my view, there needs to be more of a balance. I was the only member of the board negotiating team to not sign the memorandum of authorization to bring this contract forward tonight, and with a heavy heart but with a clear conscience, we'll be voting no on the agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you much. Does anybody else want to comment? Brendan?
I want to start by thanking both the board and WEA negotiating teams for the countless hours you guys have spent negotiating, and specifically for all the teachers for everything they do. But I think this vote is premature. And through my email this weekend, you guys know that that's nothing new. We only received a copy of the full text of the collective bargaining agreement at 2 o'clock yesterday. In essence, we've been given less than 30 hours to read and digest a 34-page contract that commits the board to a multi-year spending plan that accounts for more than half of our annual budget. Yes, it is true that we have seen the highlights of the memorandum of agreement, but how can we be expected to vote in good conscience to approve a contract based solely on bullet points? I've been told this is business as usual, and that the standard procedure in all districts is for the board to not be given a copy of such agreements prior to a vote. How is that possible? Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the most basic rule of contract law, don't sign it unless you read it and fully understand it? Furthermore, had I not raised my concerns through an email this weekend regarding this vote, that document wouldn't have been distributed at all, and we would still not have been given a copy prior to a vote. Moreover, we're given several copies of every district policy, course curriculum, and we have several weeks to read and digest it, leading to their final approval. We spend months reviewing the budget before it's approved. We're given the resumes of everybody that the administration chooses to hire for the district, and we're given an itemized list of every check the district issues, and we review hypothetical projections for our facilities projects many years out. That being said, why is a multi-year $150, $170 million agreement not given the same degree of scrutiny? I know there's a sense of urgency among some members to get the contract approved before the end of the year. That agreement will be made, or the argument will be made that Westfield teachers have never had a contract expire without a successor agreement in place. And that is a testament to our truly excellent working relationship we have with our staff. I'd like to stress that my no vote tonight is not out of disrespect to our teachers. In fact, it's my Westfield education that gave me the analytical skills to examine that which is put in front of me. Our teachers are our greatest asset, and as such, I've not even commented on the specifics of this agreement. However, without being given adequate time to review and digest the details of all pertinent documents, any vote to ratify this collective bargaining agreement is premature and, in my opinion, irresponsible.
Thank you, Brendan. Are there any other comments or? Sure. Yeah.
So just very briefly, I believe that the most important element in each classroom is the teacher. More important than computers, iPads, switches, cabling, even our facilities. I do believe that there's no better use of our funding than to have a qualified teacher in each classroom. So I was on the negotiating team, and I tried to keep that front and forward in my priorities as we went through the process, and I will be voting yes on the contract.
Gretchen.
I also was on the negotiating team and will also be voting yes tonight. And I come, you know, it's like when you run from the concert and you're like, your mind's in a million different places. And I had actually prepared a statement, and I knew I wasn't going to decide whether I read it tonight until I sat down here. I'm not going to read it, and I think that I will just simply say that, as Mitch expressed, there was a great deal of time and energy spent by both negotiating teams. And while I'm disappointed in the way that our negotiations ended, I believe that's probably a conversation for me to have with Kim or with somebody else. But I'm incredibly proud of where we got to. I think it's a really good contract. It addresses morning supervision issues and healthcare issue or health insurance issues that we needed to address. The extra professional development day is a great thing. It's a tight budget, and I agree with Mitch that we all really struggled and wanted, our initial goal was to get below the 2%, but where we ended up is a place that I'm comfortable with, and I will be voting yes on the contract.
Anyone else want to? I would like to just, I'll say a few things. First, Brendan, I'm sorry you feel that way. We all had copies of the current contract, which is the green booklet, I think, and the memorandum of agreement, or bullet points, as you noted, is all that is allowed to be changed in that green booklet. So with the green booklet, you had all the language and all the information that, and the bullet points that would be in the contract. So I'm sorry if that wasn't made clear to you, but we have been looking at and reading the current contract for over a year. So if that wasn't made clear, I apologize. But I do know that we've had all of the information throughout this process from the negotiating team, from the administration, and yes, it wasn't completely pulled together in the one track change document, but we had the information. So I do apologize that you felt like you didn't have it, but I wish you had reached out sooner than your email this weekend saying, where is it? Because we all always had it, and I apologize for that, that's how you interpreted the process. With that said, I will be voting yes on this contract. As I have mentioned before, the board had countless meetings discussing our negotiation stance. We charged our negotiation team with a strategy, which they adhered to. And most importantly, this contract meets the parameters the board agreed upon. I'd also like to bring something up that Lucy mentioned, is that there are many contracts being settled in the state that are well above 2% salary increases. And I appreciate our unions, the WEA's understanding of the constraints that our school board in particular face with within the 2% cap and with the very low state aid that we get. So yes, there is a 2% salary increase, but for that 2% salary increase, we're getting an awful lot, I think, in my mind. We're getting an extra professional development day, which is, as Ginny said, really important. If we want teachers to be the best they can be in their classroom, they need time. They need time to understand the new standards. They need time to understand the new evaluation systems. They need time to think and be with colleagues and plan and look at student work and say, what's working? What can we do better? And as a board, I think it's irresponsible if we don't provide them with that time. And I think in this contract, we are providing them with the time. It is a step in the right direction, in my opinion. They are increasing their contributions to healthcare individually between 10% to 35%. That's individual. So individual teachers are contributing more to their healthcare. And you can say, yes, well, it's not as much as the private sector, but they're coming from a different place. So we're moving, again, in the right direction. The district will no longer pay benefits for those on maternity leave past the statutory time required. We had 31 teachers this year extend their leave for whom we provided benefits. With this contract, teachers extending their leave will go on COBRA. Again, that's a huge step in the right direction. And again, I appreciate that the WEA recognizes the constraints that we face as a board. There's the elimination of dollar incentives for teachers who waive the health benefits. So again, they're understanding all of the perks, let's say, that were in contracts for teachers, our WEA is working with us together to make sure that we can provide the best education we can for our kids. So yes, they did have a 3.9% salary increase in the 2010 contract. Could they have gone back to the table after signing the contract the night before we got all our state aid cut? Maybe. I don't know if the board asked. I wasn't on the board. But I do know that also as part of that contract, it was groundbreaking negotiation that our teachers started contributing to their health insurance in that contract. And it did offset a lot of the 3.9% increase. So I do understand that that's a big number, especially when we lost all of our state aid. But there were other pieces to that contract that offset it a bit. And yes, maybe they could have gone back to the negotiation table, but again, like I just said, I wasn't on the board. Were they asked? I don't know. But let's not look back. Let's look forward. And the contract that is at the table tonight, I think, is really looking forward. It's looking forward fiscally because we are tackling the big issue of healthcare and how can we control these costs that are really out of our control. And then also the professional development, which is so dear to my heart and so important if we want our teachers to continually learn and continually grow. So negotiating is a give and take. I think there was a give. I think there was give and take on both sides. And I will reiterate, I am voting yes for this contract. The board's negotiating team adhered to the terms outlined by the board, and this contract meets those agreed upon parameters. So, and I'd like to also thank the negotiation teams on both sides, as well as the board, because we really did talk a lot, and we looked at this an awful lot. And like Mitch said, they are hard decisions. They really are. So I'd like to thank everybody for that. So with that, comments from the public or no? Sure. I'd like to recognize the public for any comments. Seeing no one come to the podium, can we have a vote?
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
No.
Roseanne Kirsted.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
No.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the following resolutions under finance, numbers 2 through
19.
19. May I have a second? Thank you, Ginny. Any questions or comments? Anything needed to be highlighted?
No, just number 2, you've already actually approved that resolution, but this is one of those resolutions for the grant funds from the state, and they wanted some additional wording in there, so it's just a revision of a resolution they already approved.
Okay, can we have a vote?
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes, but I abstain as to 4 and 5.
And Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Legislation?
No report.
Technology?
I will have a detailed report next week.
Oh, okay. So
I want to
excited
get
to
the
hear
notes
the
out.
report.
I want to get the notes out first.
Ah, okay. I'd like to note the notes for the record. Is there any unfinished business? New business? Liaison reports. Ginny?
Yes, for a change. I was able to attend the Union County Ed Services Commission reorganization meeting and also several negotiating meetings. I've already been able to bring some ideas back to our negotiating group. It's hopefully we can learn some best practices from that process. I attended the Garden State Coalition of Schools annual meeting with Dr. Dolan. Not a lot to report. Union County Superintendent's Roundtable honoring outstanding scholars of Union County was also an opportunity that I attended with Dr. Dolan, and once again, thank you very much for inviting me. It is a pleasure and it's a thrill to see the students who are commended for their academic achievement in all of the public schools and the magnet schools of Union County. Our students are well represent us. It was a delight to be there.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Are there any other liaison reports? I have two. The first is the Special Ed PTC Committee will be having the last meeting of the year tomorrow. That's Wednesday, starting at 7:30 at Edison Elementary School. And they are having a panel of teachers, educators, and experts discussing how to stop the summer slump. So all people are welcome. Your child does not need to be classified. The summer slump does affect all kids in some way, so please stop by. It's at Edison School at 7:30 tomorrow night. And then I also attended the PTSO board meeting for Roosevelt Intermediate School today, and it was sort of a transitioning of passing the torch from the current board to the board for next year, and it was really nice to see the people who are stepping up to volunteer and work in the district. Nothing else? Okay. I'd like to recognize the public for anything. Questions, comments? Okay. Then I'd like to ask the board to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by the state and federal law, personnel pending or anticipated litigation, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations, and be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussions will be made public as soon as practicable. May I have a second? Thank you. Ginny? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.